Welcome into episode 221. Be sure you're following us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at by CA Simmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. You can also email us at Pegasus Podcast by KSN at gmail.com. Christian, it's game week.
It is game week. It really actually is game week.
Thank God. It's been an off season. It's been a long time. It was nice to watch some week zero college football. It was nice to see Georgia Tech beat Florida State after
That was very
that whole
nice.
off season. Yeah, good times, good vibes.
See, I really enjoyed watching Florida State lose because I'm always going to I'll always enjoy watching any of the other Florida teams lose a game, but I'll particularly enjoy it when it's a team who is actively suing their conference and then losing to like a lower level team in that conference. But it also was scary in some ways because it reminded me we do this every offseason where over 9 months we talk ourselves into believing we know things, then the season starts and it's like, oh right, we actually don't know a single thing about what's going to happen. Like we don't know anything about this UCF team at all. And it was a good reminder to just sort of get mentally prepped for that. We learned exactly how much we don't know when we got the depth chart today because
I
there
was
were
to say
things
we
in
know
there
some
that we
things
just were
now.
not anticipating.
We know some things now about this UCF team, at least initially. So we'll talk depth chart first, and then we'll get into not like a preview of UCF New Hampshire, because what can you really preview about that game? It's more so like it's a form of a preview, what we might be able to learn from it and get out of it. Some of that stuff maybe was answered by, or at least initially answered by, this depth chart. So we'll start there. Where do you want to start? I wrote down a bunch of stuff at every position, but do you want to just go position by position
That's probably the
and
easiest way to do
any
it. Yeah,
takeaways we have at each of them?
I think that makes
Um,
sense.
I mean, I wasn't surprised by this, but starting at quarterback, QB2 is Ja'Cory Brown.
Dylan Risk was
Um,
robbed.
I did mention, I think I did actually predict last week on the podcast that there would be an or. I thought there would be an or situation there, and there was not. So
Nope.
Ja'Cory Brown, QB2. Um, I don't really have much to say about it.
We
Like, I
should note
assumed,
UCF has done 3D depth charts in the past. This is a 2D depth chart.
yes,
We're
yes.
so Dylan Risk unfortunately does not get to have his name there, assuming he is.
Um, yeah. If he's not, then there's even more things we don't know about this team. Running back, there was obviously RJ Harvey at the top, and then we have two ors. We have Johnny Richardson or Penny Boone or Miles Montgomery. So are we reading into Johnny being listed ahead of
Well,
Penny, even though it's an
couple
or?
thoughts. The first one is that Louisville fans are having a ball on Twitter right now. They found the depth chart and it is in their circles, and they're loving that Penny Boone because they have taken this to mean Penny Boone is third string, which I don't think is what that means. But
No.
I don't know if I'm supposed to read into that order or not. We were talking about this before the podcast. I mean, I can read you the 2022 running back depth chart, which was first string was Isaiah Bowser or Johnny Richardson. Second string was Mark Anthony Richards or RJ Harvey. And as we all know, RJ Harvey just dominated that year. So whatever. But I don't know. I guess I just was kind of it's such a dumb thing to care about. Like I figured they would do the ors at running back, but I just kind of assumed Penny Boone's name would be first, and I don't know if it
Mm.
means anything or doesn't mean anything that his name isn't first. I think it's just weird because him and Johnny are just completely different players who you would use in completely different situations. So it's hard to have a conversation about like
That's
who's more important or something like that, you know?
that's why I don't think it matters. Like
Yeah.
I think both of them were going to see the field anyway, and Johnny will see it in certain situations. Penny will see it in other situations. I don't really think there's and I know maybe it's a bit of a departure from what Gus normally does with his running backs. He doesn't usually throw out three running backs, but I think he will this year. I think they're going to run the
Yeah.
ball a ton, and Johnny's speed is something to take advantage of. Penny's a giant man, so yeah, they're both going to be on the field. RJ Harvey's going to be in the field probably more. Well, yeah, definitely more.
I do think
But
just from like a funny perspective, we have now is it 3 or 4 years in a row we've just completely disregarded Johnny Richardson and then he showed up high on the depth chart. Like we were having conversations in
mhm.
the spring of we were like, why isn't he transferring? Why would he stay here? They brought in Miles Montgomery, they brought in Penny Boone. Like, why is he just decided? We had a conversation on this podcast where we were like, would he really rather just stay at UCF than go to G5 where he might play? And now he's the second listed running back again. Like we've just done this
Yeah,
every single year. So shout out to Johnny Richardson for showing the haters up literally every year, and I'm sad the tradition will be ending after this season.
yeah. Again, I don't know why we keep doing that or why we've kept doing that, but now we won't even have the opportunity next year to rectify that. He's gone. So
Well, yeah, we will because we'll have a podcast where we're like, yeah, obviously his football playing career is over, but like, it was fun to have him at UCF. And then I'll be like, Johnny Richardson is drafted in the seventh round and somehow makes it onto a roster and all this stuff.
I mean,
I'd be
he
down.
might.
I'd be
I
down.
wouldn't be surprised, honestly. That late, but all right, yeah. So running back, a little bit of surprise, but not too much. maybe the biggest surprise, one of the bigger surprises that wide receiver. Wide receiver 3 currently is Trent Whittemore.
Yeah, man.
Um, Bredell Richardson, not listed. Um, I mean, I don't know. And then the other two, the transfers, Javarius Johnson and Jacoby Jones, were listed behind, or as the backups. So
I think it's cool that Trent Whittemore and Chauncey Magwin are paired together as first string and second string since they like came in together as colossal disappointments last year. But yeah, this is a surprise. You were the one who pointed out to me that I guess the writing was maybe a little more on the wall than I would have thought because he did talk to the media. What was that last week? And he was getting a
it
lot of
was like,
hype from.
oh, there was a time maybe a month ago that he talked to the media.
Yeah.
No,
So I
maybe not that long ago, but a few
yeah,
weeks.
but it's I didn't see that one coming. We were not in the know on that one. That to me doesn't bode well. I know that UCF sort of spun it in their pressers today, both coach and players of he's really taken a leap in the last 2 weeks. Like he suddenly stopped being the somewhat average player he was for 3 years, and in the last 10 days has become awesome. And they're just going through, yeah, he's great. What was it? You tell me because I haven't had a chance to listen to KJ's presser. What was KJ saying about him?
Um, I didn't actually watch KJ's presser. I just read a quote on Twitter. I think Stephen Leonard posted a quote that said, I think it was KJ was calling him like a contested catch machine or something like that, like a 50-50 ball machine. He had another nickname or something for him too, I think. And he apparently has been, yeah, one of the more improved players this year or this camp.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I'll said it every week, and it's kind of bad that I think I've started to kind of like formulate this take, and then it is so drilled into my head now that it's actually how I feel. I don't think it matters if they have a wide receiver 3. Like
You're
I
just
don't.
doubling down on that one.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna throw the ball enough,
I think
like
it
to
matters a
really.
little bit.
It
I
might
think it would
matters a
be
little bit,
nice.
but I think having a replacement level player at wide receiver 3 for this offense is fine because they also have Randy Pittman, and they
Yeah,
also have running backs who can catch the ball.
but
So
again, you're talking about a whole roster. What I always go back to is, yeah, it's fine to not have a wide receiver 3 until Kobe gets hurt on Thursday,
well, yeah, but
and
that's
then like that's the
nearly every
concern.
position. Like
I
that's why like I never can look at a season like that because yeah, injuries are going to happen, but you don't know where they're going to happen. And everything we say about any team, there can be a caveat of like, oh yeah, if this guy gets hurt or if there's an injury here. Like that's how I feel about that because like we can't predict it, so it's like I don't know.
But I'm not saying that it's not worth talking about because you can't predict it. I'm saying that that's why I think it is a potential problem that they had the three guys who were starters, they all had last year. They had Kobe, they had Xavier Townsend, they had Trent Whittemore. They knew those three guys were coming back and felt that they needed to go add multiple transfers. And none of those multiple transfers being named as a starter to me signals that they just didn't, we don't know, but it signals that they did not live up to what they were hoping they would be. Like you can't tell me that they wanted to start Trent Whittemore because if they wanted to do that, they wouldn't have gone after multiple wide receivers. So that's where I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of just the way we frame it because when I think wide receiver 3, I do think of the third wide receiver. When we talk about overall wide receiver depth, then yeah, I feel more like that's the conversation we're having about if Kobe goes down, if Townsend goes down, they don't have depth. But I'm thinking, I guess if I'm looking at it as just the third wide receiver on the field, I'm thinking, all right, well, he's going to be probably the fourth or fifth option in the passing game. But yeah, you're right. Like and again, this is what I think I said at the top of the podcast. I meant to if I didn't, but this is the initial 2 deep depth chart for the season opener against New Hampshire.
Yes.
And they play New Hampshire and they play Sam Houston. And by the time they go to TCU in a couple weeks, they'll have had 2 games worth of evaluation on a lot of these guys, and it could look a whole lot different. Like
I
it
trend
could.
more towards I don't think it's gonna look
It
crazy
might
good.
not, but
It typically doesn't.
what happens if the offense goes out there, Whittemore doesn't do much, but Jacoby Jones has 4 catches for 97 yards and a touchdown. Like he'll naturally start to get more
Well, so
snaps and
that
all
was going to
that.
be my next question to you was I want you to call this right now because I feel like I'm in denial. I just refuse to believe that Trent Whittemore is really wide receiver 3. Like that's cool that he's going to be, one of the 3 wide receivers out there on the first play for the offense. I just don't believe it for some reason. Call it right now. Will Trent Whittemore have more receiving yards this season than both Jacoby Jones and Javarius Johnson? Yes or no?
No,
I kind of feel no too. And maybe I'm just in complete denial because I'm basing this off
I
of
don't
nothing
know.
other than I saw Trent Whittemore's name and just thought, no way. Like, no
And
shot. So
that's the thing. Is like that's where I get hesitant to like be like I don't believe that he actually took a leap because I have no idea. Like people that are saying that they might have alternative motives for saying that and want to just hype him up, but they have actually seen him practice. They've actually seen him in this offense, and I haven't. So like I can't fully be like no, there's no chance until we
Yeah,
do see
but
him go out
you
there.
say they hyped him up. When you have a situation where you brought in multiple transfers at a position and none of them are named a starter, and you come out there to speak to the media, and the media say why, you're not going to say they all sucked. So now we're stuck with
But
this
yeah,
guy. You're
but
going to be like, oh yeah, he looks good. You know,
they also needed more wide receivers anyway. So
they
it's
did.
like they couldn't just say, "Oh, well, we're happy with Whittemore and yeah, that's it. Like we don't need anybody else because Javon left and had other transfers out." So
Do you remember
I don't
that Trent
know.
Whittemore was named as an or starter with Kobe Hudson last year?
I did not remember that.
The starters were Javon Baker, Kobe Hudson, or Trent Whittemore, and Xavier Townsend.
So Xavier Townsend was not an or, but Kobe Hudson was.
That is correct.
This coaching staff, man. I don't I don't know. But I was long ago. Maybe it was when he first transferred to UCF. Do you remember the stat that I clung to on like Trent Whittemore's like 4 catches at Florida or something like that?
I do
His
vaguely
like
remember
his
something
like
like this.
yards per catch was like 21 or 23 or something like that. And I was like, this guy's just gonna be catching deep balls down the field all day, and it's gonna happen. So
Which, to be
I think
fair, he
at
played.
one point I was like, he's just gonna be Trey Nixon. Like he's gonna catch,
Okay, well, that's
you know.
insane.
I said that. I said that last year. I'm not saying that this year, but I did say it last year.
No, I think it was insane to say last year, but
It was.
he did
I
play a
said that
little
at the time
bit.
too.
He caught 3 balls for 36 yards, which is 12-yard average.
Yep, not
So
bad. First down is a first down to catch, so
yeah, not terrible.
take it. Um, yeah, this is fun. It's fun to just like have it's fun to have like real stuff to be talking about. Like,
It is really fun. It's so funny. I said this to you earlier because I am souring on the team by the minute. I think we've talked about that. And at the
yeah,
same time, I'm still so excited for the season. And I've just kind of landed in this weird place in my head where I'm like, I think this season is going to go off the rails in a bad way, but until it does, I get to be happy. And I know I have at least 2 weeks where it won't happen. So I'm just going to kind of enjoy it
watch them lose to
because
Sam Houston.
this, oh, don't even say that. This depth chart has not made me feel better about like any of the areas I was worried about. So I feel like I feel like as recently as a month and a half ago, I was so in on, yeah, I totally think they could win the Big 12. And now I'm just like 7-5. I don't know. I feel like I'm over course correcting and I'm still wrong, but I'm just having a harder time with some of this stuff.
I'm I'm doing the same thing. Like there was a time probably 3 months ago, 2 months ago, 4 months ago, I don't know, whenever we were kind of talking about like, yeah, a lot of things have to go right, but like they're going to be they're one of the 9 or 10 teams that believe that they can compete for the Big 12 title. And I'm sure they still believe that, but I don't know if I do anymore. Like I've started to think like my official prediction, I believe yours was too, right? Was 8-4 a
Eight and
couple weeks
four.
ago. And I'm looking at the team now and I'm thinking like, yeah, 8-4. I think the 7-5 is a distinct possibility. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they went 7-5. But I also, if they stole one here and there, they could go 9-3, 10-2. I don't
Yeah,
know.
to be clear, I'm not
Like,
writing off the idea of them having a good season. I think they
yeah,
absolutely could still, compete for the Big 12 title, whatever. It's just the things that I was expecting to happen or the certain players or positions I was expecting to see good news at, we just never kind of saw it this offseason. And now the depth
yeah.
chart has kind of been like the final word on that for things like receiver, for things like offensive line. And then you pair that with they've lost Amari Henderson, they've lost John Walker. It's just I'm just not what a great preview podcast before the first game. I'm just not in the same hell yeah, this is going to be a great year headspace as I was a couple months ago, just because nothing has quite worked out the way we were hoping it would.
I also think that's kind of natural though, because I think
Yeah, I do this every year.
there's like in April and May, you can romanticize like what the next season can be. And then when the depth chart comes out and the season's actually here, you start to think like, oh yeah, out of the 12 Saturdays or 12 games my team plays, I might end up really, really angry on like
Yeah,
8 or 9 of them.
yeah.
Like just even if they win some of those games. So it's like then now it's closer. It's like, all right, time to look at this season from a more realistic lens than 4 months ago when we were like, yeah, I mean they could go 11-1.
I'm going to make a commitment right now. I'm not going to be
Okay.
angry after any win this year. I don't care what happens. Any win I'm good with.
I'm not gonna make that commitment.
I swear to God, setting it in stone right now. I'm not going to be mad with any win. Any way they win a game, I will be okay with it. They're going to
So
beat New
they
Hampshire
go
like
out and
10
beat
to
New
3
Hampshire.
now.
Yeah. I was gonna say like it's gonna be like 14-13.
Oh God.
Uh
I wouldn't be mad.
yeah.
Win's a win. I'd
Yes,
be
you would.
terrified for what comes next, but I wouldn't be mad. Yeah, I think that we'll see. I mean, what's funny is, and I'd already sort of been, this take had been marinating for me a little bit, and we talked about it on our predictions podcast, and the depth chart really sold home for me. I think I think I'm at the point where I'm just legitimately feeling better about the defense than the offense, which is so stupid for so many reasons. And it's not going to play out that way in the season, but I just kind of am right now. And part of that is
All right.
because of the next position group we're going to talk
Yeah.
about.
So let's finish up with the offense. I mean, all I really have written down to talk about here is the starting offensive line and the way it's made up. Amari Kite at left tackle, Adrian Medley at left guard, Caden Kittler at center, Marcellus Marshall at right guard, and Paul Rubelt at right tackle.
Pretty
Um,
much exactly what we were expecting it to be for the last
yeah,
like 3 months. Really, no
yeah.
surprises there whatsoever. I'd been
Which
hoping against hope that Paul Rubel wouldn't happen, but here we are.
but like for there to be some surprises on this depth chart and none of them to be there, like for us to be like, yeah, we kind of figured this is what the offensive line was going to look like after the million iterations of it last year.
Yeah,
To now be like, oh yeah, we kind of knew what the offensive
but to
line would look
me,
like on this depth chart.
this is one of the bad ones though, because I've been sitting here all off season, all through spring, being like, surely they can find a better option at right tackle than Rubel. And I really don't want to be mean because I know fans love Rubel and I love Paul Rubel. I hope that he goes out there and is awesome. Like he's been that guy of like everyone hopes he could get there one day, literally since he got to UCF back in the 90s. And I'm very excited that he's finally going to have a chance to play. But
That
I
took me a
just,
second. I was
but yeah,
like,
I just
yeah,
slipped that one at the end, just seeing if you're paying attention. But there's no way
I
around the
barely
fact that
was.
Paul Rubel has been on this team for years and has never meaningfully played. There's no way around the fact that UCF tried very hard to land a lot of offensive linemen this offseason. There's a lot of guys they missed on. They landed two of them, and neither of those guys are going to start. And it just feels less like Paul Rubel took a leap and more like they're just kind of stuck with him at right tackle. And that has me freaked out.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, like you said, like he's been here. He's a redshirt senior. Um, I don't know. It's I guess at this point it's time for him to either like just sink or swim, put him out there and see if he can do it. If he can't, then you've at least got Wes Dorsey who has played more than Paul Rubelt has. Um, but I kind of figured this was going to happen. So like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say I'm not freaking out about it, but I guess I'm not because it's like, yeah, I kind of figured we'd get to see whether or not this will work or not, and then it'll be up to Herb Hand to kind of figure out what is going to work. If it's really that like dire of a situation, they'll have to move some things around. And I kind of feel like they'll find a way to do that. I don't know if it'll be like it'll make up an elite offensive line, but they'll have to do something because they can't just. And I don't think they would just stick with a right tackle who can't play. But
So
I hope so.
let
I
me
hope
clarify.
I
I don't
hope
think
this is
Paul
his
Rubel
year.
literally. I don't think he literally can't play. I just feel like
Right?
he's
No.
going to be a weak point on that line. And I'm just going to keep throwing questions at you that you have to predict an answer for each of these position groups. Here's one for the offensive line. Not counting injuries, when
Mm-hmm.
UCF heads into Gainesville, is this the starting offensive line? These
Um,
five guys in these five places.
I'm gonna say no, and it's not for the reason you might think. Like, it's not because I think like Paul Rubelt will fail.
Okay.
I just think this is, and I could be wrong, but this is just kind of going off of last year. And I know it wasn't always ideal. And I don't think Herb Hand has always preferred to do it this way. But I think this is the first way they're like the first look they're going to get, and they're going to tweak this look until they get what they really want and what they want to stick with. If
Yeah.
they want to stick with one,
I think
I'm
that's
sure they
probably
do.
right. I think
But
that's probably right.
it feels like
Um,
they'll try this, and if it works, then yeah, I'll be wrong about this, and this will be the offensive line going into Gainesville. But I just kind of think they'll move some pieces around.
it kind of feels like whether it works or not, which I think sounds weird because it's like it's not like it's not going to work against Sam Houston in New Hampshire. It's just that
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like that is Herb Hand's the way he operates. Is just that sometimes you have to get them out there against other teams to really see where people play best. And we know they've tried out stuff. We know Marcellus Marshall was at center a little bit. We know Jabari Brooks came in as a center and is now the backup
Mhm.
left guard. So I mean they'll try things and we'll see. I don't know that unit as a whole. I also just don't feel great about really any of the backups.
What
Um,
I what I do feel good about with the backups is they are like moderately experienced. Like
it's true. It's a lot of
they've been
experience.
around. Like it's Wes Dorsey, the fifth year guy. Keegan Smith, the backup right guard's a redshirt junior. Cam Kenny's a redshirt junior. Jabari Brooks is a fifth year guy. So like really the least experienced one of the 10 offensive linemen listed on this two deep are Keon Cox is a redshirt freshman, the backup left tackle.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much the only one. And then obviously Caden Kittler, the starting center, is a redshirt sophomore, but he's played and he's been good. So yeah,
This
I
is
don't know.
so not a previewing the New Hampshire game problem, but I just want
Hmm.
to point out that 4 of those 5 starting offensive linemen are out of eligibility after the season, and that's going to make next off season very fun. So just buckle up for that one already.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like I am blanking on a lot of it as far as who they have that aren't on the two deep. But
Walt
like
Claire
I know
Flynn.
Walt Claire Flynn is one that they'll at least have to start somewhere next year, whether he'll shift to guard or what, because he came in as a center, didn't he?
Yep.
But if Caden Kittler's sticking at center, then they'll move Walt Claire to left or right guard, I'm sure.
Until Caden
Um,
Kittler transfers to Miami unexpectedly.
why do we got to go with Miami again? Can we just vary it up? Um, all right, I don't want to think about it. Let's not. Defensive side of the ball. Surprising that there are less surprises or fewer surprises on the defense side of the ball. I think
There were some surprises. I was
there were
surprised by a couple
some. I think there
things.
were fewer though.
I don't know actually.
No,
I'm
I
counting
mean
4 surprises, maybe 5.
four surprises. Yeah, I guess when you consider the position switch, which we'll start there.
Okay.
And I don't know that necessarily a full-on position switch because I'm sure that in different alignments he can line up outside still. But Dalen Dotson has been a defensive end, and Bright brought him in as defensive end, and he was listed as the backup defensive tackle behind Ricky Barber. As you mentioned earlier, John Walker is hurt. I remember they said last week that Gus would address it on Monday, and Gus's addressing of it was a lower body injury, as if this is the NHL, and
We also
that
there's a photo. There's a photo on
yeah,
Instagram of John
yeah,
Walker's leg. Like it's not, but he also
yeah, it's like
said
in a
that he was like,
yeah.
"We're
What do you?
hopeful we'll get him back at some point." And it was in
He
he
said
said
he's
it in
out
the
for an
way of
extended
like,
period of time. We
yeah, he
hope to
said
see him
it.
back before the end of the year.
Yeah, he said it in the way of like we are not seeing him back before the end of the year. So John Walker, unfortunately, is yeah, that's unfortunate. But and Gus said that Dalen Dotson moving to DT was a result of that, which was interesting to me because that means Dotson's been. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Gus was being totally honest there. Who knows? But I that would imply this has only been a thing the last couple weeks at most. But I'm interested by that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really know what to make of it fully, but I think the defensive line as a whole, it still just looks really strong to me. I think it was interesting to see Nigel Kelly earn the other edge spot.
Hmm.
I kind of was leaning towards Dale Dotson before he position changed, but
Yeah.
I mean, even without John Walker, it's like you've still got Lee Hunter, you've still got Ricky Barber, you've still got Matthew Alexander. It's not, and now Dalen Dotson. Like it's not a disaster by any means. You know,
How
you don't want to have
huge?
another injury there, but
How huge is it that Ricky Barber's back now, though?
yeah, that was kind of like we were like glad to have him back. That's cool, but whatever. And now it would be a little bit of a catastrophe right now if he had not come
Yeah,
back.
but
I
it's
mean,
like okay,
Matthew
you've got
Alexander
this
would have
guy.
started, but yeah,
Yeah, but you've got Ricky Barber who started now for going on. Do we say it was his fourth
this is
year
gonna be his fourth
starting?
year starting for UCS. Yeah,
Yeah. So that helps. I mean, it's still seeing John Walker or not seeing, but like not seeing him all year, it would be horrible. And I don't know, like when you say like we hope to get him back before the end of the year, like is he gonna? That's a serious enough injury where is he gonna be able to come back on like September 23rd and play at West Virginia? Like, is that gonna be worth it?
that's why I'm
Um,
skeptical because the way Gus made it sound was that it would be like, oh, we might get him back for like the Arizona State trip, and that's a position where I'm just like, at that point, does that make sense to put him back out there after a serious injury? I don't know. So we'll see what
yeah,
happens,
we'll
but.
see. Um, Yeah, so the other thing you mentioned was defensive end Nigel Kelly being a starter there, um, ahead of Caven Call. Caven Call is the number two on that side. Malachi Lawrence obviously starting on the other side, and he's backed up by Isaiah Nixon. Seeing those two like on the two deep, like I'm gonna say already, but because they've been here for a year, but seeing them on the two deep is nice
Well, I was
because
gonna
I hope
say
that means they'll be in the rotation.
Isaiah Nixon, Caven Call, and Andrew Harris,
Yes,
all on the 2 deep. Kind of exciting.
yeah. Do you want to? I guess are we done with defensive line? So we can talk about the linebackers now with Andrew Harris and the whole lot.
I think so. I feel really good
Okay,
about the D line for sure.
yeah.
There were surprises, but none that had me freaked out.
Not surprised that either of the starting linebackers, Deshaun Pace and Ethan Barr. Of course, Ethan Barr being a captain.
Yep.
So Deshaun Pace was listed as the will linebacker. Behind him is Exree Alexander or Andrew Harris. So that's the one intrigued me is seeing Andrew Harris. Seems like I guess I don't remember what he's listed at. He's pretty small when he came in, right?
Yeah.
I know they say he's up to like two. He's listed at 223 now, so I think he's
I can
bulked up
pull
a
up
bit.
if you talk. I can pull up really quickly what he
Um,
was at a high school.
he's bulked up a bit. I know he's always been quick. So if he's quick and bigger, like that's a good development. Um, because he's a sophomore, so I forgot he didn't redshirt because he was playing on special teams.
Yeah, so
Um,
he was listed as a recruit at 6'1", 200.
okay, I
Yeah.
mean, so he's probably low. He was under 200. He's
Yep.
probably under 223 now, but still, that's about 15, 20 pounds that he's probably put on.
Yeah.
Um,
That's pretty solid growth there.
yeah. So that's good. I mean, that's good to see. Josiah Pierre is another guy they brought in who is backing up Ethan Barr on this two deep as the Mike linebacker. Again, we talked about it last week when we were doing the position rankings. I still don't feel great about like the depth just because we don't really know,
Yeah,
but it's better than it has been, I would say. Like
I
I
think
feel
so.
better about the depth than I did last year. So
And I feel just flat out good about the top of that group. I feel really good about putting Deshaun Pace and Ethan Barr out there. And yeah,
yeah,
like you said, we'll see. The rests are a little bit of an unknown, but this could be a weird situation where, and I don't want this to happen, but I don't know. Deshaun Pace gets injured, and maybe that's how Andrew Harris emerges. Is he's forced into a situation like that, and he shows why he was a 4-star. I mean, there are enough intriguing pieces there where I'm not like, yeah, they're an injury away from it being like the Kansas game again. But yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
it's not bad.
I need to keep reminding myself that X3 Alexander is only a sophomore as well.
Yes, also a
Because
young
like
guy.
I'm thinking like, oh, he's like, but yeah, he and Andrew Harris are both sophomores, and I was thinking looking at it like Deshaun Pace 5th year, Ethan Barr 5th year, Josiah Pierre 5th year. But it's like, okay, if this ends up working out for X3 and for Andrew Harris, you at least have two guys next year, along with Troy Ford, whoever else they can develop, and whoever else they bring in. Um, where it's
And,
like the cupboard won't be bare next year
yeah.
necessarily.
And it's kind of tough to gauge that with transfers sometimes because when they went after X-Ray Alexander, they may have fully been aware of the fact of, yeah, we don't necessarily know if he's going to be a guy for this year, but he could be really good. Like we just think of transfers as so like instant, they come in and they're
Yeah,
supposed to, matter right away. But yeah, I mean, he's someone who could absolutely matter down the road.
that's why I forget he's a sophomore because I think of every transfer as a senior or has like
Yeah.
1 year left. Same thing with like Ricky Barber transferred, like you said, 4 years ago. Like I can't wrap my head around that he's been here for that long because he
I know.
transferred so long ago.
Does that make him,
Um,
depending on how he performs this year, which I'm assuming will be well, does that make him one of the best transfer hits ever for UCF? You got 4 years of
yeah,
a starting DT out of the portal. That's like crazy to me.
yeah. I mean, I don't. That could be a podcast, honestly, on its own.
Best
Who the
transfer
best
hits.
transfers have
Kobe
been?
Hudson be up there, 3 years.
Yeah, I mean RJ is obviously one.
Yeah, well, RJ's different because he was pre
Oh,
free
so we're talking about
transfer.
just only the transfer portal era.
Since like the transfer portal as a market became a thing where teams were
Oh,
expected to go
okay.
build that way versus like, guys who just you
Because
managed to get.
I don't feel like we do talk about it enough with RJ that he's become one of the better running backs in UCF history,
Yeah.
and he was a guy who transferred here after he started as a quarterback at not Oklahoma at Virginia.
Yep.
So yeah, like the fact that he's turned in the career he has after when he came in. I mean, I know there's a lot of hype behind him that year before he tore his ACL in camp or in spring, but it was just like at that time it was like, okay, well there's like four other running backs, but now he's been one of the like the last couple of years he has just been electric, and I'm expecting him to be electric this year. So
He's the most liked UCF football player since Milton by the fan
yeah,
base, for sure, which is a pretty solid accomplishment.
yeah. All right, let's finish this up with the secondary. Kind of all over the place. Not surprised by Braden Marshall starting at nickel.
Nope.
Um, Brandon Adams starting at corner. I'm not surprised about. Mac McWilliams is the other starting cornerback. Which are you surprised by that or no? Because I
Yeah,
feel like
I'm very mildly surprised. I was assuming it was going to go to Antoine Jackson, but I don't
mm,
think that. I think we'll see both of them a lot. I don't think that
yeah,
that's necessarily anything crazy. What I do think is funny is that I remember I was like out to eat one day in like April, and they randomly were just like, we added Mac McWilliams, and I was like, who the hell is that? That's weird. Whatever. Moved on my day. Now he's their starting corner. Like that was such a
yeah.
random ad right at the end of the portal cycle, and it's apparently been a hit.
Well, he's the second one because wasn't Nigel Kelly was a spring ad as well, wasn't he? Like
Yeah,
after
but he
spring.
had more like we were
No, I
aware that
know.
they
I'm
were
just saying,
pursuing like Mac McWilliams literally just dropped out of the sky and was suddenly on UCF's
yeah.
roster out of nowhere one day and now is starting.
But I'm just saying, as far as picking up guys after spring ball and now they're starters like that, like
Yeah.
hopefully it works out because like that would actually kind of be an impressive feat to be able to do that.
Well, they have
Um,
12 guys listed as starters on defense because they have an or for safety, and six of those guys they brought in as transfers this portal, this past portal cycle,
yeah.
which is pretty crazy.
And yeah, and so at safety, another one, Sheldon Arnold was a surprise to me.
Yeah, same here.
Um, I know, I expected to see him play. I just kind of expected him in the rotation, but I thought it would be Brian Threats.
Yep.
But yeah, so Sheldon Arnold is listed as a starter, and then the other safety spot, which was the final surprise we'll talk about, and I was a little surprised just that it was Ladarius Tennyson or Quadric Bullard. I would have been less surprised if it was Sheldon Arnold or Quadric Bullard.
Yeah.
I just the way they've been talking about Ladarius Tennyson, it's been like, yeah, he's a sure starter, and he's going to be one of the like top guys on defense.
I don't know if I necessarily overread into him being an or on Ladarius versus an or on Sheldon. I mean, I think the truth is it's like Sheldon Arnold, Brian Threats, Ladarius Tennyson, Quadric Bullard. We're going to see all those guys a lot, presumably. It's
Yeah,
always a little weirder with DBs. Like it's not as straight up as yeah, you're the backup. It's like they're all going to play a lot.
and I think can't Antoine Jackson play safety too, or did I make that up? I might have made that up.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Might have made it up.
I think
But
Chasen Johnson could play both. I think that
Jason
was
Johnson's yeah on the two deep as a corner behind Brandon Adams. Um,
exciting. True freshman. Not even a highly rated
yeah,
true freshman. Now in the two deep.
I've worked myself into being a huge Jason Johnson fan, and so I will be yeah I'll
See,
just
I think
be happy anytime he gets to do anything.
I've worked myself into being a huge secondary fan. I just think I've just decided the secondary is going to be very good. And now if they're not, I'm going to be devastated because it really sudden. I don't know. Like this defense, just you compare it to the problems they had on defense last year, and you just look at this unit, especially at the top, like literally from the D line through the secondary. Seems good. It seems
Yeah,
good.
I don't want to fall for it for some reason. Like I've been tortured by UCF secondaries in the past because yeah, I don't know. I'm a little worried.
I just feel
Um,
like if this is what we think it is, having a really good D line and a really good secondary would be a very nice combo that I'm very
yeah,
happy with. So hopefully that is the case.
yeah. I hope that's the case, and we will not find out Thursday night. I don't think. Not the one way. If they're giving up 500 passing yards on Thursday night, then we'll be like, oh, okay, maybe the secondary is not very good.
No, not even. It's
Um,
time for my annual Mackenzie Milton disclaimer. We're not going to learn anything from New Hampshire. We're not
mm,
going to learn good things or bad things. Mackenzie Milton threw 3 picks against SC State in a year where he finished sixth in Heisman voting. The
that's
FCS
different
games
than giving
just
up.
don't mean anything.
That's different than giving up 500 passing yards
They're not going to give up
against
500
New
passing
Hampshire.
yards. They're
No, I
not
don't
going to
think
give
they
up
will
500
either.
passing
But
yards.
that was my example. So
They're going to give up like
you can't.
8,
I don't think that's
eight
true either.
passing yards.
Um,
Call it right
Eight
now. That's
passing
my next.
yards.
That's my next prediction question for you. How many passing yards does UCF give up on Thursday night?
Um,
I'm going to say 93.
that I feel like it's going to be more. 196.
Okay, yours probably feels more realistic.
I just feel like UCF's going to be up by a lot, and they're just going to keep throwing. Like New Hampshire's
Yeah,
going to throw the ball, so it's
yeah.
like
You bring up valid points.
I usually do. Um, so as far as not what we're going to really learn from Thursday night, but like what we're going to be looking out for. Um, I think just seeing KJ Jefferson in this offense and him running the offense for however long he does it. It seems like Gus in the past has been, unless they're playing really well, he's been less quick to pull the starters in these games. Um,
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes I don't remember what game it was, but there was a game with JRP. It was maybe 2 years ago. Would it have been who did they play? I'm blanking on who they even
SC
played
State.
early that year. Was it SC State?
Yep.
It was that game, right? Where JRP ended up playing a lot longer than we thought
Yeah.
because Gus wasn't happy with how the offense was
He
executing.
he really went in on them in the post game presser and was like, I left them out there because I wasn't happy. Which, speaking of things we could learn about KJ Jefferson, can I just read you JRP's stat line from his first ever game as a Knight against SC State?
Yeah.
Completed 20 of his 31 pass attempts for 308 yards and 4 touchdowns, rushed for 100 yards and a touchdown on 16 attempts. And then he went on after that amazing performance to put us in hell for 2 years.
Mm.
So I don't know what I don't know if there's anything KJ can do really to make me feel one way or the other about him. I'm not even sure if we're going to really learn anything about the way he's used, because certainly they're not going to use him against New Hampshire to the full extent. I don't think they're going to want him like, I don't know, trying to truck defenders like how JRP like to do against Kent State. I feel like there's actually very little we can learn about KJ. I'm almost more interested to see what Jakuri looks like out there, or see if Dylan
hmm
Riss gets out there a little bit.
Yeah, and I feel like That's why I wrote it down on the outline as learn, and it's more so at this point, not learn, but what do I want to see? Like, what am I looking
Yeah,
forward to watching?
it's a good way
And
to
I'm
look at
looking
it.
forward to watching KJ Jefferson's first game. Like, that's
Me
it.
too.
Just whatever we get to see of him, like that'll be interesting to watch.
Can we make a pat
Um,
right now? A pact? Pact? Is that how you
packed,
say that? A pact?
packed.
I kind of
Yeah,
forgot the C the first time I said it.
you did.
Can we make a pat?
I
Let's make a
don't know
pact
what
right
that
now
means.
for our.
Okay.
Hey, we're gonna have our first post game podcast of the year. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Been a minute. You don't seem excited.
It's just whenever it's late like that, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh,
It'll be fine.
it's
It's not going to be
11:30
as late
and
as it was for the Boise State post game pod, so we'll be
never
okay.
nothing ever will
Uh,
be, I don't think.
um, let's make a pact right now that regardless of what KJ Jefferson does, we will not overreact to it.
Oh yeah, I mean I wasn't planning on it.
We say that, but we did it last year and we did it the year before. So I feel like
What
we
did we
need
do? What
to.
did we do last year?
We came in after Kent State and we're all angry about. Oh, I guess we kind of ended up being right though, didn't we? Because we because we were really upset with that JRP didn't he was playing just as recklessly as before and we were annoyed that he was going to get hurt and then he did
And
get
then
hurt.
we were annoyed. Yeah, then we were annoyed. Well, actually, we didn't even have time to be annoyed. Like he did it again against Boise State the next week and did get hurt. So
Yeah, so let me a reverse pact, opposite of what I just said. Let's go
reverse
all
that.
in on whatever our gut instinct is. However we immediately feel about KJ, let's just roll with that take for the rest of the season.
Okay, well, no, but I like where your head's at. No, yeah, I mean, like, we can't overreact on Thursday night. We will,
We'll
but we
try.
can't.
But what if how would you feel if I'm going to give you two scenarios where you may overreact, and I feel like both are likely. Are you really going to prevent yourself from overreacting if he just throws for like 380 yards, 4 touchdowns, bulldozes his
Yes.
way to like 2 touchdowns as well? You're going to overreact to that, right?
No. I
You're not.
think, I'll make an example that you'll be familiar with. And now I'm be teaching our audience something about me. But you and I talk sometimes about like Marvel movies or like anything. And we enjoy Marvel movies very differently. That's not really part of the story. But for me, even some of the worst Marvel movies, I'm like, yeah, like I enjoyed it. Like I had a good time. That's how I want to approach Thursday night. KJ Jefferson throws for 500 yards in the first half and then is done by the second half and he's got 4 touchdowns. I'm going to be like, yeah, that was fun. That was cool.
I can't.
Enjoyed
Our
that.
brains just we talk. Our brains work totally differently. But let me give you the
Let's just
opposite
say I had a good
scenario.
time. Okay, go ahead.
What if the night comes and goes and KJ literally had like 1 touchdown, like just off like a screen pass or something, and just was totally unremarkable and unimpressive the entire night? Are you gonna not overreact to that?
I'm gonna try not to overreact. I might. It'll be cause for a little bit of worry.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't say that wouldn't worry me, but I'm not gonna say, oh, we're doomed. It's all over. I like
Yeah.
to think that I wouldn't say that because it's still probably even if he has 1 touchdown, they'll probably still win like 30 to 40
Oh,
points.
I don't.
So like
I don't think we need to worry about like the score here, guys.
no, that's what I'm
I think we're
saying.
gonna
So
win
it's
the
like
game,
I'm
and
gonna
yeah,
come away being like, yeah, they won by 40. Like other parts of the offense look good. It's like a little worrisome that KJ only threw for 1 touchdown and completed 48% of his passes, but I don't
I
think
don't
that's
know.
gonna happen.
I feel like he's weirdly in a boat where just nothing he can do is gonna put me in a good headspace. Because even if he
That's
performs really well, I'm just
I
gonna be
think
like,
that says more
well,
about you or says more about us that
we're learning
like
this is a me problem. Because even if
yeah.
he does perform really well, I'm just going to say it doesn't matter. It was New Hampshire, and if he doesn't perform well, I'm going to be like, oh no, he didn't perform well against New Hampshire. So
I can't
it's a
wait
lose lose.
to I can't wait to put him on Heisman watch 2 drives into Thursday night's game.
Oh, because you know it's coming. It's going to be on their freaking scripted drives to start the game. He's going to look incredible, and we're all going to be like collectively like, oh my god, we are actually winning the Big 12, and it's going to be a really really great like 20 minutes where we all feel that way.
Oh gosh, I hope not.
And then they play Sam Houston next week, so then we're going to really believe it because he's going to
Well,
get to do
see,
it twice.
that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say I'm gonna put him on Heisman watch after Sam Houston when he has like 8 touchdowns to 0 picks and has already thrown for like 600
I
yards.
was gonna say he
And
could
then,
realistically be going to the TCU game with like 12 touchdowns on the season. Like that's like a real thing that could be happening.
but so I was gonna say that, and then I was like, no, we'll put him on Heisman watch like 2 drives into the New Hampshire game.
I like that.
Um,
2 drives. How about one? How about one throw? Just one really good throw.
I'm gonna ask you a question now because you've been putting me on the spot all
Okay.
podcast. Does he complete his first pass of the night or not?
Oh, Gus will make sure. Yeah, he absolutely
Just
will.
do like a little screen, a little dump
All
off.
right, let's play that. Isn't this like someone does this on Twitter for like a coupon or something, right? A coupon. It's not 1980, but what are they called now? Gift cards for like someone does this, right? It's like the pick the
Yeah,
first
it's
player
what's his
to
name? Sean. from UCF
Right.
Problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's play that right
Sean
now.
from UCF Problems, not
Sean
UCF
from UC. I
Problems.
think it's just Sean is UCF problem.
Yeah.
So let's play that game really quickly right now. Who is KJ's first completion to? Who's his first pass to?
Randy Pittman.
Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna go RJ Harvey.
Yeah, that's probably more likely.
That's what I'm gonna go with.
Sure.
It's gonna be Javarius Johnson.
In the second quarter.
Oh, good lord. Oh, don't even say it. Can you imagine? Oh man.
Oh yeah, that whole first quarter, the app that is Twitter would just have burnt to the ground by
I
then.
could actually see, okay, now we're getting conspiracy theory, but I could actually see a situation where like UCF on their first couple drives does all this like crazy running the ball stuff, like end arounds and like Wildcat, all this stuff, and they're up like 14-0, and we're like, this has been great. And then at one point I just look at the box score and I'm like, AJ hasn't thrown a pass yet. Like I feel like I could see that happening.
Again, this is where I look at the offense. I'm like, it's more. I feel like it's more likely that we're going to see him like that could be possible. Where like the first two drives, it's 14-0. He's like 2 for 3 for
Yeah.
39 yards. Like
Yeah.
he's completed 2 passes. I don't know.
All right, I have another question.
Okay, we're just going to spend the rest of this on what we're going to see
This is
from
the last
KJ.
one because then we can
Okay.
actually this isn't a KJ question, but it is a throwing the ball question. In either the New Hampshire or Sam Houston games, does RJ Harvey throw a pass?
Probably. I mean, like, why would you break it out against either of those teams? But
So that's what I was
probably.
gonna say. Is I was gonna say probably not because if you're smart, you could just say, "Hey, we've always wanted RJ to like do this. We could just do it in this game." But if you're Gus, you're like, "This, it's gonna work this time. I've got to save it for like when we're down by 3 on the road at Gainesville. That's the time that we're gonna have RJ throw the ball."
Well, that's why I said that because it doesn't make sense to have him do it in either of these two games because it's like if it's going to be your big trick play, then why would you break it out against them? But because that's like how a normal person thinks and like how a normal like thought process goes, I feel like Gus might still break it out
But
just
to
to see if it,
me,
just to see he just wants to see one go in. Like
that's what I'm
he's
saying.
been
RJ
trying
Harvey
this
throwing the
like
ball is not a trick play to me because they've tried it multiple times. It's never worked. It's fan service. The fans just want to see RJ Harvey get a touchdown pass. So just do it in one of these games.
okay.
Give Lee Hunter a
Okay,
touchdown. Like
there
it's
you
things like
go.
that.
Here's that's what I would rather see at this
Okay.
point. I'm not huge on seeing RJ Harvey throw a touchdown pass. I want to see Lee Hunter score a touchdown from like the 2 yard line.
Lee Hunter at tight end catches pass from RJ Harvey.
He did it with did it with Jemias Pittman that time, right?
They did.
In 2017.
I'm still angry to this day that they took Nate Evans' touchdown off the board in the Gasparilla Bowl in
Yeah, me
2019.
too.
That was really lame. That was
Why
the
I don't
coolest thing
remember
Heupel
why.
ever did. They just said he was short and time
Oh,
ran
okay,
out.
that's right. Yeah, it was bad. I had another thing to say, but I forgot what it was. So, oh no, that's the other thing. Will Xavier Townsend attempt the pass?
Oh god.
And will Darren Hinshaw get mad at him
What's the
for not
most
knowing to throw the ball away
what's the
because
most
he's a wide receiver?
unhinged play we can come up with? Is it like an Xavier Townsend Statue of Liberty to Lee Hunter or something? Like what's the most like absolutely unhinged all of UCF's weird stuff coming together play we could think of?
Something, yeah, I mean something
Yeah.
like that. I don't know, something that involves Xavier Townsend and RJ Harvey doing things that they don't normally do,
That would be
and
incredible.
one of them ending up throwing the ball to KJ for a touchdown.
I do think it's good that when they did have a key moment where they were going to have a non-quarterback throw the pass, they picked Xavier Townsend and not the player who actually was a quarterback
Yeah,
for much of his football career. But what can you do?
I'll never get over it.
I really didn't hate that Townsend call as much as everyone else did because if it worked, it would have been like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, that's everything.
That's true.
All right, we can I guess get off. We just talked about KJ in New Hampshire like for 15 minutes.
Yeah, man.
What else? I mean, what else is there? Like the some of the stuff I was thinking about this yesterday when we talked about what we wanted to do for this podcast. Not thinking like, oh yeah, some of these questions and some of these things I want to see are going to be answered by the depth chart.
Yeah.
So like how the starting wide receiving core looks, we kind of know now because Trent Whittemore is going to be out there as the third guy. The same thing with the DB rotation, but like I guess even within that, like we know how it's going to look to start the game, but like we still don't know. We obviously don't know because we're not. It hasn't happened yet. Who is going to emerge? Like who's going to have? Who's going to like? We're coming away from the night. Who are we going to overreact about?
That's what I'm curious about because there was a very clear one last year, and it was Xavier Townsend. He had a really great
Yeah,
performance against Kent State, and we were like, we found our next great wide receiver, and then he just was kind of, he wasn't bad by any means the rest of the season, but
yeah.
just didn't really live up to that performance. So there will be someone. I'm curious to see that. You're right because even things like rotations and everything, we're just not going to get a true picture of it in this game. And you did bring up a good point that Gus has kind of has a track record of keeping the first string out there longer than most coaches would, but I'm excited to see some of the second string guys, some of the third string
Yeah.
guys, and because I do think this is the type of team and some of these situations we've talked about where some of those guys might end up being important as the year goes along, or might have a chance to sort of shine. So I'm curious for that. It's just I think more than anything, this is such a dumb, definitely not a thing to say on a UCF podcast where you're supposed to be previewing a game. But I'm kind of just excited to just be in the bounce house and watch them play a game. Like this
Yeah.
game doesn't have consequence. It has even less consequence than usual because they're not even playing a real game next week either. So it's just like it is a preseason game, but it's going to be fun. And they sold it out today. I'm excited for it.
This is why, like, this is why I've enjoyed the last, was it, they did it last year. I've done it quite a bit lately where they play a Thursday night game that's like not an opponent that you have to really be worried about. And we've talked about it on the podcast, like, yeah, because we love college football so much. Like, we get this on Thursday. We're like, oh, we get to go to a UCF game. We get to watch UCF play. We get to watch UCF win. And then we get a full Saturday of college football. And so, like, we're almost like easing back into college football season where it's
Yeah.
like, we just get to be happy for a week until, I mean, I guess, yeah, for 2 weeks now with the Sam Houston game until week 3, when then, okay, then we have to start getting nervous and feeling like I'm going to throw up all day on Saturday.
But think about it this way: Florida State lost. Miami
Okay.
and Florida play each other on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So UCF is going to be undefeated when at bare minimum two of the three Florida programs already have a loss. And I think that's going to be fun, even though it's for a dumb reason that UCF is undefeated. But we're gonna get to stick with that. And the
Yeah,
cool thing
no,
is
why
the
not?
season doesn't start until TCU. I'm just tempting fate with the Sam Houston game, but the season doesn't start until TCU. Then if they win at TCU, which like isn't that crazy of a notion, suddenly they're 3-0. They're a quarter way through the season and haven't lost a game and can try to get
Yeah.
ranked and all that stuff. So
Yeah. Last thing I want to say about this game, one thing that I do think we can learn, Colton Boomer, because it doesn't matter who the opponent is
they're not trying to field goal.
at all. You don't think?
I don't think they try to field goal.
Really?
I'm totally wrong. I'm
Okay.
going to
Well, then
completely reverse on this take. Well, I don't know. I'm thinking like I'm the coach. Let's think about this. Is it worse to wait for an actual big moment for him to try a field goal, or is it worse to try to get his
probably.
confidence up in a game like this and then he misses it in this game?
Okay, but at that point, then you're in panic mode. At least you know you're in panic mode.
I don't know.
I don't want his first field goal attempt to be like on the road at TCU.
Okay, I'm amending my statement. I don't think
Okay.
they're going to try a field goal that's longer than like 35 yards.
Okay, I could see that, I guess. But even then, even if he misses, then I'm gonna be very worried.
Well, I've just
If he misses
decided
a 32-yard field goal, because like
yeah.
he missed, didn't he miss a couple short ones last year?
He made one in 2022 that it was like a 28 yarder and he doinked it, but it went in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he missed a couple PATs last year. I think he missed a close one or two.
So that's the thing is if he misses a kick of any kind, that's not like a 55-yarder on Thursday.
Maybe he doesn't. Maybe they don't try any field goals because Gus is just like, I don't want to know. He's like, I know it might be bad, but like, I'd rather just not deal with that now. So let's just keep it away
We
for a
can
couple
think
weeks.
like that. Gus should not be thinking like that because he needs to figure it out.
I don't know.
That's where
I
he
think
gets.
if I were Gus, my genuine take would be let's really try to get him like one or two easy field goals, like easy short range field goals that we know he'll make. We're not gonna like it's not gonna be like a 4th and 6 where it's like a 55 yarder and they're like, hell yeah, let's go. Like let's try it out. Like I don't think they're gonna do that.
See, but like even if that happened, I wouldn't feel bad about him missing a 55-yarder. Like I wouldn't be like, oh no, like
I don't think you
we're
want him to have a
doomed.
miss, period, with how the end of last
I
season went.
guess
I
so.
don't care if it's a
Yeah.
tough field goal or not. I don't think you want to have Colton Boomer missed a field goal coming out of that game.
You don't want to have a 55-yarder where they're not supposed to snap the ball, and
It was like a
that was his.
60, it was like a 60
It
yarder or
was something
something, wasn't it? It
crazy, but
was
that was like
something
his only
ridiculous.
miss his freshman year, right?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
What a time.
Yeah, it's great. Anything else?
No.
No,
I think that you think this one's bad. What the hell are we going to talk about for Sam Houston when it's just the same thing again?
the same thing again, but with also through the lens of like what we saw on Thursday.
It's like, yeah, KJ looked really good last week. I wonder if he will look good again.
It'll look good again. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird spot to be in, and I know no one really cares about it. Like, oh wow, the UCF podcasters are like, what do we talk about? But like, I don't know. I don't know what we do next week.
The
But
worst podcast we will ever do will be the late night pod after the Sam Houston game. Because truly, what are we going to talk about for that?
no, we'll have something by then.
I hope so. Maybe we'll
Because
talk about the other Big
at
12
that point,
teams. I
we'll
don't
be
know.
like, maybe not. Maybe at that point, we'll at least have some sort of opinions. Like, okay, what we're starting to look ahead to TCU, and like, what are we worried about?
It
but
also, that's true. That like weaknesses might have emerged. It definitely, if some unit or player or something has looked bad through 2 games, then yeah, that will be something to talk about. I
we'll
just don't really anticipate
we'll
that though.
also know more about TCU too. So it's like
That's a good point.
I
That's a
know
good
we don't
point.
like necessarily need to be preview. Why are we talking about this now? We don't need to be previewing the UCF TCU game on this post game Sam Houston podcast, but we'll probably naturally start to do some of that. So we'll
Yeah,
figure it out. We
it'll be
always
fun.
do.
It'll be fun. We're gonna watch UCF play games, and that's gonna be. I'm so excited for Thursday. It's my like. I don't know why.
It's like a
I don't
holiday
recall being this excited for the Kent State game last year, which seems stupid because that was
because
also their
JRP was the
first game.
quarterback.
As oh man, that's probably part of it. That is
Yeah.
probably part of it.
Um, No, I will go back and correct your statement. The worst podcast we'll ever do is the stadium survey one we did, and that will remain the worst podcast we've ever done and will
Yeah,
ever
if
do.
you're
So,
listening to this podcast and you don't know what we're talking about, all I can say is you're welcome because I feel very bad for our listeners who did listen to that one. That was my bad. That was a failed attempt at a podcast. We got through it. We're okay.
so much fun. It really wasn't. I love that we did it though, because then it's just something we can laugh about forever.
Yeah, so
All
good,
right,
man.
the football news. 11 of UCS players landed on the Senior Bowl watch list that had, I don't know, like a million players on it. Um, I think I heard this explained today actually by Andy Staples. He was on Pardon My Take, and he said, the guy who runs it, what's his name? Wow, forgetting his name. Jim Nagy, runs the Senior Bowl, and he says kind of like it's their look, their watch list is anyone they think might at this like by the time the Senior Bowl rolls around be someone who has a chance to get drafted, get signed as an undrafted free agent, or basically be in an NFL camp next year. So it's a long list, but for UCF's guys on it, R.J. Harvey, Penny Boone, Deshaun Pace, Brandon Adams, Marcellus Marshall, Mac McWilliams, Malachi Lawrence, Lee Hunter, Kobe Hudson, KJ Jefferson, and Ricky Barber. So kind of the usual, like, who you
Who
would
you would
expect, I
expect,
think.
yeah.
Yeah. Another watch list, or award watch list came out, and it was the Campbell Award. And Caden Kittler was named to the watch list for that. This was fun last week that I wanted to include here was that UCF ran a poll as to which decal they should wear with their gold helmets for the homecoming game, which is the BYU game. And it's the throwback decal, one with
Yeah,
87% of the
man.
vote.
The
There was like
Lance
700
logo
votes.
from that
Yeah.
was like the logo when I was a kid. I'm very excited about that because the only throwback logo we've seen from UCF was the state of UCF logo, which is obviously really
Mm.
cool. And it's kind of funny. The Lance logo isn't even necessarily one that I was like
Itching to
really
see.
well, yeah, itching to see, but I'm realizing I meant that as in like 2016 because when they first started wearing
Mm.
crazy helmets and throwbacks and stuff, like it wasn't that old yet. And I don't know, like I wasn't expecting to have such a reaction to it. I saw it and I was like, that is going to be freaking cool to see that on a helmet again. Particularly because the new gold helmets they introduced last year are like super close to the gold from
Mm-hmm.
that era because obviously the gold they wore from 2016 to 2022, while a very good gold was a different gold. So I'm excited. I do want to
Yeah.
say a couple things about that poll though, because just I mean you explained it. They gave 3 options and said what decal for homecoming. I don't know if this poll was like binding, like if this was actually going to be how they decided or not, but 87% of people correctly voted for the throwback and the new decal. Congratulations to you for having a brain. That's great. 9% of you voted for the night scripts, which we literally saw 3 times just last season. And it is
Mm.
cool. And like, okay, like you voted for that because, that was your choice. It was the wrong choice, but whatever. The 4% of people who just voted no, just wear the normal stack decal they wear like every game. What the actual hell is good? Like, what's wrong with those 4%? If
It
you're
was
listening
Clay
to this
Pasco.
podcast and you are one of those 4%, I want you out of here. Like, I don't understand how you could possibly. I'm so baffled. It's
It was
fine.
Clay because he just
What?
wants UCF
Oh,
to have.
yeah.
I said it was Clay
Yeah.
because he just wants UCF to have traditional uniforms and doesn't want them to do
We
the
discussed
UCF
this.
uniform gimmicks.
We were on Sons of UCF Live this past week and we discussed this a bit, but there has been some unfortunate poor takes coming from the younger portion of UCF Twitter who doesn't realize how good they have it and is taking it for granted. But we don't have to get into
Yeah.
that here.
Oh, I was gonna say something else about those helmets, but I forgot what it was. Oh, it was just the. I mean, yeah, like, I'm glad 87% of the people did the right thing, and that like it it just makes sense. It's the homecoming game. It's a throwback logo.
Yep.
It looks great, and I'm excited about it. So
The
that's
Lance
nice.
logo has weirdly aged kind of well. Like I feel like that
Hmm.
could work as a logo today, which I maybe wouldn't have felt that way even a decade ago, which is kind of funny.
They had like a throwback-ish kind of shirt. Well, not throwback-ish. It was like that throwback Lance logo shirt come out. Like, was it last toward the end of last season or like
Yeah,
earlier
because
this
remember
year?
everyone freaked out and was like, "Oh, they're doing the logo or something, or they're
Yeah.
doing throwback
I
uniforms."
just saw him and
And
was like, that's cool. That's a cool
yeah,
shirt. I should get it. And I never did, but
I
we'll
have.
see.
Wait, do I have? Hold on,
Okay. Oh,
the
there we
helmet.
go.
Yeah,
I like it.
If you're
Um,
listening to the audio version, I'd have like 12 UCF mini helmets next to me, and I just pulled down the helmet we're talking about, which I realized I probably could have done at the beginning of this segment, but that's fine.
last thing is something you just mentioned is that UCF in New Hampshire is sold out.
Yeah.
So that's good news. I think that's like,
Is any home game not sold out now? I think it's just Cincy.
I think so. I think you're right because Colorado sold out a long time ago. So did Utah. I think Arizona did a while ago. Is BYU? Is that one sold out?
Homecoming? I think homecoming. I think that's
I would
sold out.
assume so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've lost track at this point, which is a good thing.
Took 2 years to get in the Big 12 before what was previously our biggest game every single year is the only game we haven't sold out yet at the start of the season. That's something.
Yeah. All right. Game of the week. This is UCF men's soccer, who is 1-0-1 so far. They just drew, I think, number 23 Seattle, I think it was on Sunday. Um, and so I have them as number 19. I know they've been referred to as number 19. I don't think the new poll is out yet. So they'll probably be a different ranking coming up. And as of right now, I'll be playing number 15 Wake Forest, who is 1-1 so far, hasn't gotten off to the best start. So we'll see if their ranking drops. But as of right now, it's a top 20 matchup, and it's Saturday at 7 o'clock at UCF, UCF men's soccer in Wake Forest.
It's just good to have UCF sports back. Like I couldn't watch the
Yeah.
women's soccer game, but I was keeping up with it on Twitter, and it was just nice to open Twitter and see updates from an actual UCF team playing
Mm-hmm.
games. It's been really nice.
Yeah. They drew Utah Valley on Thursday, right? And then they drew Florida last night. So um, yeah, 2-2 draw against Florida in Gainesville is pretty good.
Yep.
And then, yeah, I actually just the fact that I had to have a choice this week where it was like, all right, women's soccer, men's soccer, and then volleyball starts this coming Saturday as well. So I was
That's
like, who do I
right.
pick? And yeah, I
Should
and
we
just
have
kind of cheated by picking all three.
should we have the volleyball game up on like a laptop or something while we're watching college football?
I was thinking about it, yeah,
We'll do
like a
it.
laptop,
We'll
phone,
do it.
something. I don't know.
Bailey
We'll
and I are
figure it
getting to
out.
hang out this weekend because Bailey's coming to town for the game, which we don't get to do super often. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. Got to get through the next couple of days of work, and I'm still thinking about it. We started this podcast on a sour note before we got actually started recording. Just to tell you all, Christian and I were both like, this week is already moving slow. It's been one day.
Very busy.
So yeah, got to get through the next 2 days, and then it's gonna be game day. I'm
It's
gonna
gonna be
love
game day,
it.
man.
Yeah. So tweet of the week.
Tweet of the week. If you follow me on Twitter, you may have seen that Clay Pasco from Up All Night was going to Sons of UCF / Up All Night was going to earn tweet of the week, and then Bailey showed me that he's actually tried to bait me into tweet of the week in the past, and I'm not sure if he was or not this time, but just to be safe, he did not get tweet of the week. So
Okay.
instead, we had to pivot because we had to change last minute. We are going to do a positive tweet of the week, and that tweet is going to go to a 40-minute documentary that UCF just randomly dropped both on Twitter and on YouTube. Was that yesterday?
Yes.
Just straight up documentary on RJ Harvey just came out of nowhere. And I wanted to shout that out because it was really, really well done. I hope that I know we talk about this a lot, but I hope UCF fans understand how not the norm it is how good UCF's content is for its fans. Like other schools aren't dropping documentaries on players. They aren't even dropping like good graphics a lot of the time. And UCF fans are just so spoiled. But it was really good. I recommend everyone watch it. I also am very interested in how exactly it happened because it so does not seem like a thing Gus Malzahn would typically allow. Because we've talked about this repeatedly during the Gus era, is that part of what made the 2017 team so special and 2018 team so special was back then media and fans had a lot more access to players, and the fan base knew the players much better. The fan base knew the story of Mackenzie Milton and coming from Hawaii. They knew Shaquem Griffin and everything he had been through. I mean, they knew these players on a more personal level. And ever since Gus came in, it felt almost intentional about not really letting that happen. And I think that Gus just kind of came in with more of an SEC mindset where you really have to sort of defend your program. And that works at Blue Bloods where like a town like Auburn that exists solely because there's a football team in that town. But I felt like we were missing that connection a little bit. And yeah, this is a little different because it is something in-house, but it was a really honest look into RJ Harvey's journey. They didn't skip over him not choosing UCF out of high school and going to Virginia. They didn't skip over. He revealed he talks about he almost quit the team after the Louisville game in 2022 because he couldn't get in. He didn't understand why he wasn't put in the game when they were struggling, and he was doing so well in practice, which honestly didn't remember him not playing that game. Made me mad about that game all over again, but it was still just a very, very just well done from a production standpoint and just also very interesting and a good watch. So I'd recommend UCF fans, if you have some time, go watch the RJ Harvey documentary, which is on Twitter.
Yeah. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. It was a busy day yesterday and I've been busy today, so I think I might watch it tonight. So that's on the to-do list. So
I think my favorite
looking
line of
forward
it
to it.
was RJ Harvey said, he said the year he was being recruited was when UCF beat Coach Gus, which I liked as a way to describe that.
I do like that. Awesome. Positive tweet of the week. Yeah, I think are we just gonna say that Clay Pasco is banned from tweet of the week? Like
Yeah,
he's just
there's nothing.
barred from
Well,
it.
I don't want to try to.
Unleash
Yeah,
him.
I don't want him to like now make even crazier tweets. But as of now, Clay Pasco is banned from ever receiving tweet of the week as a multiple time offender trying to baby into getting to.
Yeah, I don't trust him when he has a bad take. I don't trust that
I
that's
don't
an
either.
honest take. I think he's just engagement baiting, and I think he's good at it. So
Also, one
we'll
more tweet
see.
of the week note. That was a positive tweet of the week. The season is now here, so like don't expect anything positive in that segment from now
Oh,
through December.
man, we missed it. We missed the chance. What's the thing that on Thursday night / into next week UCF fans are going to be arguing about and complaining about?
Oh,
What's the what's the thing?
students leaving early
You think so?
because that one's already been cooking a little bit on Twitter. So that'll
Yeah,
be
but
it.
this might be
UCF's going
too
to be
early
up
for that.
35-6 at halftime, and students are going to go home because it's a Thursday night. And the same four people are going to go on Twitter and be like, what happened to this university?
It
Like, we
might be
used to
too
be a
early for
serious
that
program. I bet you're not.
because
I bet it.
I don't know. I feel like
Well,
people will wait for a home game that like matters, where like fans will, like I don't know, maybe students won't leave Colorado. Maybe they will. But like if students leave the Colorado game early, that's when they would be like, okay, this game. Because like I think I don't know, maybe not, because some of the people who complain about that are that irrational, where they would be like, it's a 40-point lead over New Hampshire on a
yes.
Thursday night. Like
The
we
game
need
has
to
never
stay. But
mattered.
I think even then though, they'd be like, yeah, I mean everybody else left too.
I think the real answer is it's something that we're not going to be thinking of. Like the big
Oh,
one,
of
the
course.
first one last year was like they need to fire the DJ. Like I just can't see these things coming. So like there
They
will be
didn't play
something.
Zombie Nation enough. That was the big thing, right?
Yeah, so everyone wanted the DJ
Yeah.
fired. So we'll see what it is this year.
And then week 2 was, isn't it illegal for Boise State to wear all blue uniforms in the
Yes,
blue field?
adding the NCAA on Twitter because they don't understand why Boise is wearing a uniform they wear all the time and have for many years.
Like I said earlier, I said this coaching staff, man, this fan base,
Look,
it's a lot.
if I had to predict something that wasn't an argument last year, I could see the lobster roll coming into play. So that's like
A sentence I never expected to hear on this podcast or come out of your mouth in general. So yeah,
um,
there's a lobster roll that I don't. If you're gonna try that, good luck.
the
I
stadium's
don't.
now selling a lobster roll, and if you know where Orlando is on a map and just know the general quality of stadium concessions, and you choose to eat that, it's a choice. But I don't know. I could see somehow the lobster roll becoming a thing. So we'll monitor the lobster roll situation through Thursday night.
Scott Carr is so thrilled that he's not like here anymore to have to like go test out the quality of the lobster
You know
rolls
what's
because
funny though
Terry
is
just got added on Twitter by him.
literally literally had to go. We were never going to get over Scott Carr, who's now the athletic director at an FBS school, was sent by his AD to test the hot dog buns at the volleyball game. The thing that sucks though is that I love lobster rolls, and like part of me is like, should I run down at halftime and try to get a lobster roll just to
No,
see?
you
Because
shouldn't.
yeah, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad, but
Yeah, we
who
shouldn't do
knows?
that. All right. Well, that was a lot. We will be back on Thursday night. We'll have a post game
Very
podcast
excited.
after the UCF New Hampshire game. Until then, you can find us on Twitter at Bailey J Adams 22, at by CA Simmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. Thank you guys so much for being with us. We will talk to you Thursday night.
Bye, everybody.